भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवतसेवया भगवती उत्तमा श्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी। ॐ अज्ञानातिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपा कदा मह्यं ददासि स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगण रघुनाथं वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगणा ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितंश्च। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिन्धो दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कान्त राधाकान्त नमस्ते। तप्तकाञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा कृष्णा कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्ण कृष्णाय प्रभुपाद की प्रिय श्री गिरिराजाय स्वामिने सुबुद्धरदास बिहारिभ्यं भक्तिवेदांतमदायिने। नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्ण कृष्णाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वती देवी गौरवाणी प्रचारिणी निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यादेशतारिणी। मूखं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुदीनतारिणम्। Hare Krishna. So we are discussing this Shrimad Bhagavatam, Canto 6, Chapter 1, the history of the life of Ajamil. So this section is dealing about sin. I just heard maybe I don't know who was doing class, maybe Ram Rupa Prabhu is doing class, Sita Devi. So it's about like how Ramchandra, his qualities. I mean, it's something very, very interesting, very sad also. So it was describing that Ramchandra, people want to be sinful. People want to be Rakshasa, Asura. He just leave them. Do what you want, right? But when his devotees are teased, right? You remember? Say that Prahlad. Who who will get rid of this demon Hiranyakashipu? Nobody can defeat him. He's invincible, right? Then the benediction came that the day he will tease the devotee, that will be his end, right? So it was being discussed about Sita Devi. When Ravan, right? Ravana, he dared to attack Sita Devi, that was his end. So here, this is the sad situation of every jeev in this material world. We are addicted to sinful activities. And we are just left to do it. But we've been counseled again and again and again, and gurus and their disciples, they are going across the world. They are talking. See, sinful people doesn't mean asuras only, right? Here, this is the history of Ajamil, son of a Brahmana, right? How he falls from the Brahminical platform. So meaning this is a regular person in society. And remember the fifth canto, the hellish planets, were describing the punishment for who? Brahmanas, Kshatriya and Vaishya, then the Shudras, right? Different types of punishment for these people. It doesn't say this is the punishment for Asuras, right? It's amazing when we read. Meaning these are good people who do sinful activities. Actually, when, Ekadashi is, all devotees keep Ekadashi. We all like to say Ekadashi, yes, but we do it, out of obedience, right? Mostly. But when I had to teach about Ekadashi, so I had to do a little bit of reading. And then I got this book on Ekadashi. All the 24 Ekadashi, the stories. So reading, and I said, what is this? What is this all about? And I found out that actually these are all devotees, all right? These are all devotees who make mistakes, all right? They become Rakshasas. They become this, and they want to become free, right? They want to become free from the sinful reactions. And therefore, for each Ekadashi, there is a particular sin that, we have committed. And we get that. So that's why we say Ekadashi's Papurush sits in the grains and contaminate our minds, right? So each and every Ekadashi, meaning it's a nakshatra, right? It's based on the moon. So there is a sensitivity for that particular moon, situation of the moon. That nakshatra, it gets activated. And if you have grains, then because the moon is affecting the grains, so that energy comes in and we become sinful. And we may do that particular type of sin if the seed is in us of that particular sin, right? So then when I started teaching different way now, Ekadashi, I said, Ekadashi, keep Ekadashi because we don't know what sinful activity we have done. And by keeping that Ekadashi, we are removing, right, the desire for all these. So these are, and then I asked, who keep Ekadashi? Rakshasas keep Ekadashi? Asuras keep, only devotees keep Ekadashi, right? Meaning this is our tapasya, right? I mean, such a science. Each and everything that we are doing, that Srila Rupa Goswami has prescribed for us, that Srila Prabhupada is executing, that his descendants, his disciples, just going on and on, it's passed on to us, right? This is such a science, and now we are studying one section of it, which is sinful activities and the counteraction of sinful activities. This is the topic here. So, yeah, we read about how Shukdev Goswami. So now Parikshit Maharaj was very upset when he heard about the sufferings of the people in hell. So he was concerned and he said, how can they be relieved? Like Arjun, when he was placed, on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, said, let me see who has come to fight. He became so moved by compassion. He says, he already knew that his soldiers are going to die, and he knew the other party also are going to die, right? He became so moved by compassion. I don't want all this. And now, so here, Parikshit Maharaj is very, very concerned. So Shukdev Goswami replied, my dear king, if before one next death, meaning before you die, whatever impious acts one has performed in this life with his mind, words, and body. So we commit sinful activities with our words, with our mind, or with the body. So these are to be counteracted through proper atonement according to the description of the Manu Samhita and other Dharma Shastras. So the Dharma Shastras, Manu Samhita, so some people may burn the Manu Samhita, right? They think it's of no use. So we can burn the Dharma Shastra. That doesn't mean that the laws of nature, that you burn the laws of nature, right? So it continues to act. Right? So it's just childish, actually, to burn the laws, the law books. It doesn't make any difference because the laws are not written in books, right? Laws are not written in books. Laws have been recorded in books so that we people of Kali Yuga who have no memory, no intelligence, we can read again and again, right? Otherwise, it's written in the Akash, right? Yes, it's written, the laws are written in Akash, and the nakshatras are clicking our pictures, right, and giving the result. So it's childish, right? Rather, it's more intelligent to study those books and understand how they work, why they work this way. Is more intelligent. So text A, therefore before one's next death comes, so twice Shukdev Goswami is using the same word, before one next death comes. As long as one's body is strong enough, the body is strong enough, when I'm 60 plus, then I will do, right? No, now, keep Ekadashi now. When you're 70 years old, you're exempt from keeping Ekadashi fast. Yeah. Bhakti Swami told us, right? Should. Yes, but it's optional. And anyway, old men, what do they eat, right? Half the time is Ekadashi itself, right? Soups, what they have? Soup, they have no teeth, they have no digestive power, right? What they eat. As it is already half fasting. And if you try to overeat, then your death comes very fast. Therefore, before one's next death comes, as long as one's body is strong enough, one should quickly adopt the process of atonement according to Shastra, meaning that if I have committed by weakness of heart, what do you call that? Oh God, weakness of heart. Oh God, see, I've forgotten. Durbalyam, what's that? Hridaya Durbalyam. Hridaya Durbalyam, meaning the heart, weakness of heart. If by weakness of heart I commit some sinful activity, or I speak something improper, or I think something improper, as soon as I realize I have done it, immediately there has to be atonement. Immediate. Say, no, wait, later, today, tomorrow, this day, that day. Before I die, I will do no. Right? Meaning immediately has to be rectified. This is good sense. So, nobody is being condemned for committing sinful activities. Nobody is being condemned. Because this material world is the place where sense enjoyers come, right? So it is automatic that sense some type of sinful activity will happen. They are not condemned, but they are condemned when they don't rectify. Then they are condemned. See how generous, how much leverage is given to each and every human being. Because human being is only 5%. 95% are animals, plants, aquatics, right? So when you are human being, so much chance is given. Otherwise, one's time will be lost and the reactions of his sin will increase. Say today, tomorrow I will do it. So what will happen? It pile up, right? Your debt, right? Your debt will go on piling up. And then at the time of death, you're seeing Yamaraj, right? You're not even able to die. You're so afraid. But you're seeing Yamaraj in front of you. So, as an expert physician diagnoses and treats a disease according to its gravity, one should undergo atonement according to the severity of one's sins. Now, today we are going to read text 9. Together. Shri Rajo Vacha Drishta Shrutabhyam Yat Papam Jananapyatmano Hitam Karoti Bhuyo Vivasah Prayaschitam Atho Katham. You can read.
Translation by Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. Maharaj Parikshit said, one may know that sinful activity is injurious for him because he actually sees that a criminal is punished by the government and rebuked by the people in general, and because he hears from the scriptures and learned scholars that one is thrown into hellish condition in the next life for committing sinful acts. Nevertheless, in spite of such knowledge, one is forced to commit sins again and again, even after performing acts of atonement. Therefore, what is the value of such atonement? Purport: in some religious sects, sinful man goes to a priest to confess his sinful acts and pay a fine, but then he again commits the same sin and returns to confess them again. This is a practice of a professional sinner. Parikshit Maharaj observation indicate that even 5,000 years ago, it was a practice of criminals to atone for their crimes, but then commit the same crime again as if forced to do so. Therefore, owing to his practical experience, Parikshit Maharaj saw that the process of repeatedly sinning and atoning is pointless. Regardless of how many times he is punished, one who is attached to sense enjoyment will commit sinful acts again and again until he is trained to refrain from enjoying his senses. The word vivash is used herein, indicating that even one who does not want to commit sinful acts will be forced to do so by habit. Parikshit Maharaj therefore considered the process of atonement to have little value for saving one from sinful acts. In the following verse, he further explained his rejection of this process.
Yeah. So we've discussed this, no? Text 10. Kvachin nivartate bhadra Kvachi charati tat punaha Prayaschitam atho patham Manye kunjara shochavad.
Hare Krishna. Translation: sometimes one who is very alert so as not to commit sinful acts is victimized by sinful life again. I therefore consider this process of repeated sinning and atoning to be useless. It is like the bathing of an elephant, for an elephant cleanses itself by taking a full bath, but then throws dust over its head and body as soon as it returns to the land. Purport: when Parikshit Maharaj inquired how a human being could free himself from sinful activities so as not to be forced to go to hellish planetary systems after death, Sukadev Goswami answered that the process of counteracting sinful life is atonement. In this way, Sukadev Goswami tested the intelligence of Maharaj Parikshit, who passed the examination by refusing to accept this process as genuine. Now, Parikshit Maharaj is expecting another answer from his spiritual master, Sukadev Goswami.
श्रीबद्धरायनिरुवाच कर्मणा कर्मणिहारो नाह्यान्ति करिष्यते अविद्वाद् अधिकारित्वात् पर्यचितं विमर्शनम्. Anita?
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Purport. Translation. Sukadev Goswami, the son of Vedvyasa, answered, "My dear king, since act meant to neutralize impious activities are also fruitive, they will not release one from the tendency to act fruitively. Persons who subject themselves to the rules and regulation of atonement are not at all intelligent. Indeed, they are in the mode of darkness. Unless one is free from the mode of ignorance, trying to counteract one action through another is useless, because this will not uproot one's desire. Thus, even though one may superficially seem impious, he will undoubtedly be prone to act impiously. Therefore, real atonement is enlightenment in perfect knowledge, Vedanta, by which one understands the supreme absolute truth." Purport. The Guru Sukadev Goswami has examined Parikshit Maharaj, and it appears that the king has passed on the face of examination by rejecting the process of atonement, because it involves fruitive activities. Now Sukadev Goswami is suggesting the platform of speculative knowledge, progressing from Karma Kanda to Jnana Kanda. He is proposing Prayaschitam, Vimarsan. Real atonement is full knowledge. Vimarsan Vimarsan refers to the cultivation of speculative knowledge. In Bhagavad Gita, karmis who are lacking in knowledge are compared to asses. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 7.15, "No na mam dushkaritam mudha prapadiyanti naradama maya paparta jnanam ashuram bhavam ashrita." Those miscreants who are grossly foolish, lowest among mankind, whose knowledge is stolen by illusion, and whose partake of atheistic nature of demons, do not surrender unto me. Thus karmis engage in sinful acts, and who do not know the true objective of life, are called muddhas, asses, vimarsans. However, is also explained in Bhagavad Gita 15.15, where Krishna says, Vedayasa cha sarvair aham eva vedayit. The purpose of Vedic study is understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If one studies Vedanta but merely advances somewhat in speculative knowledge and does not understand the Supreme Lord, one remains the same muddha as stated in Bhagavad Gita 7.19. One attains real knowledge where he understands Krishna and surrender unto him. Bahunam janma ante jnanam mama praptite. to become learn and free from material contamination. Therefore, one should try to understand Krishna, for thus one is immediately liberated from all pious and impious activities and their reactions. Hare Krishna.
Yes, okay, now it's starting. Now it's going to become complicated. So, right? Actually, I'm remembering my Guru Maharaj with all this. Because this is Nectar of Devotion, very, very intricately explained by Srila Rup Goswami. And this whole section. So, Shukdev Goswami starts. He said, "My dear king, since acts meant to neutralize impious actions are also fruity," meaning that we are doing some sinful activity, impious activity, then we are doing a pious activity to counteract that impious activity. But actually, that pious activity is itself motivated, right? It's motivated by sense gratification, right? So therefore, what happened? So you're let off, but again you do it. Again you do it. So therefore, it's not working. So persons who subject themselves to the rules and regulations of atonement are not at all intelligent. Indeed, they are in the mode of darkness, of vidya. Unless one is freed from the mode of ignorance, trying to counteract one action through another is useless, because this will not uproot one's desires. So see, actually it is suffering. This desire to commit sin is itself suffering. Like you're haunted, right? Like somebody who likes to smoke, right? Or take drugs. He's haunted by that desire. He's become addicted and he wants to do it. So that itself is suffering, right? Thus, even though one may superficially seem pious, so we say, oh, this person is very pious, he always goes to the temple, he gives donation there, he gives offering, he gives so many things, he's very, very pious, but actually he's not pious, he's not devotional, he's not a devotee. He's not a devotee. He has some vested interests. And we can feel it when we go to all the different temples. You can actually feel that vibration. People are coming with so much desires. They pour in their desires, so that their material desires hang in the air, right? And all the deities are also there for them, they have to satisfy all these desires, right? So, real atonement is enlightenment in perfect knowledge, Vedanta, by which one understands the supreme absolute truth. So Shukdev Goswami is saying, no, doing karma kand does not remove the desire for sin, to commit the sin. So therefore, real atonement is, what's the real atonement? To have knowledge, all right? So this is described in Nectar of Devotion. It is also described where? Which book? Which famous book? Super famous book. This whole section. Where is it described? In Nectar Instructions. All right? Nectar Instruction. This section is as it is. Real atonement is enlightenment in perfect knowledge. So we should come to knowledge. Now Shukdev Goswami and the Acharya, they're going to go step by step from karma kand to jnana. All right? And this jnana kand also is rejected. Why? Why is it rejected? Yeah. So now Shukdev Goswami is suggesting the platform of speculative knowledge. So we should cultivate knowledge. So in here, in Bhagavad Gita, karmis who are lacking in knowledge are compared to asas, mudha. They're just mudha, like we describe, right? What's the use of burning Manu Samhita? Better you study it, right? In simple language, I said it, same thing, what is being said in many philosophical language, right? Just say, what's the use of burning it? Mudha, right? So you think that now Krishna's word is mudha, gaddha. Be intelligent, read it, understand. But even if they understand, even they read it, it's not sufficient. That we're going to study. Even reading it. So many people, they can be scholars, right? They say, yes, I have studied in college, in my PhD in Manu Samhita, right? I can say like this, but still, we continue to do wrong things. And when somebody will challenge you, you say, yes, you're right. We should burn the Manu Samhita or the Dharma Shastras, right? That's what we're going to say. So this is what, in so many philosophical language, this is being explained what we are speaking in ordinary language, right? So, Muddha, Namam Diskritino Buddha Parpadyante Naradhama. So, Naradhama already said, who are those who are suffering in hell? Not the Rakshasas, because their place is already in Billa Swarga, right? Who are suffering in hell are pious people, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishyas, right, and Shudras. My God, that's what we read. They are the one who go to hell, right? They break the regulative principles. They commit sinful activities. So Naradhama, they are highly placed people. They become Adham. Naradhama. And what? Mayaya Parita Jnana. You believe you're a big scholar, right? You believe I know it well. You're a big scholar. So actually here, Shukdev Goswami is explaining, Prabhupada is explaining that real atonement, meaning you have knowledge. But what is that knowledge? Yes. Knowing Krishna, understanding our relationship with Krishna. Not that speculative knowledge. If one studies Vedanta but merely advances somewhat in speculative knowledge and doesn't understand the Supreme Lord, one remains the same, Muddha, Mayaya Parita Jnana, right? So therefore, one attains real knowledge when he understands Krishna and surrenders unto him. And this is very rare. To become learned and free from material contamination, therefore, one should try to understand Krishna. For thus one is immediately liberated from all pious and impious activity and their reactions. Anyway, so all this, just remember what we read now, because it's going to be explained and elaborated in the next verses. Very, very systematically. This is described in Nectar of Devotion, but here in more great detail is being discussed. Text 12. Nashnatah patyam evanham vyadhayo bhivanti evam niyamakret rajan shaneh kshemaya kalpate. My dear king, if a diseased person eats the pure, uncontaminated food prescribed by a physician, he is gradually cured and the infection of disease can no longer touch him. Similarly, if one follows the regular principles of knowledge, he gradually progresses towards liberation from material contamination. Purport. One is gradually purified if one cultivates knowledge, even through mental speculation, and strictly follow the regulative principles enjoined in the Shastras and explain the next verse. Meaning, here Prabhupada is saying, yes, instead of remaining mudha and doing all this, better you learn something, even if it is speculative. At least you are trying to understand, right? So at least for us to be able to be intelligent, so we say, okay, I should follow regulative principles, right? So if you're little intelligent, say, yes, I should do this, I should do this, I should do this. All right. Therefore, the platform of jnana, speculative knowledge, is better than the platform of karma, fruitive action. For example, how to be in good health, right? If somebody is smoking, drinking, eating meat and all that. So now he just want to enjoy. When he become more intelligent, right? More intelligent, the doctor say, don't smoke, don't drink, don't eat meat, right? The doctor will say, physician is prescribing, right? Say, okay, let me not do this thing. So you are following a regulatory process. You are improving. You are following instruction of physicians, right? So therefore, physicians are very powerful. Physicians have authority to tell their patients, don't smoke, don't drink, don't have meat, right? They have that authority. So this is knowledge. I'm just trying, otherwise just like so much in the air, what is the speculative knowledge? So I'm just making it become household life, right? Our everyday life. There is every chance of falling from the platform of karma to hellish condition. We already understood that. Everybody, the Brahmana ends up in hell, right? And this young man, a Jamil, right? A Brahmana, he was being caught to go to hell. We saw how his descent from being a Brahmana boy, how he falls down on his path to hell. So therefore, there is every chance of falling from the platform of karma to hellish conditions. But on the platform of jnana, one is saved from hellish life, although one is still not completely free from infection. All right, I know, but I don't know. I'm sitting with friends. They say, just take a drink, and I drink. Right? All right. I know. I have knowledge. I know I shouldn't drink. I know I shouldn't smoke. But I do it, even though I know. That's the point. I know. Yeah, we read earlier why we are doing it. Because of bad habits that we have gathered since time immemorial is still bugging us. It's not going away. This is called the kutam. Last week we discussed this point, kutam. It's sitting there in the psyche of this jeev, that disposition, that inclination to do wrong things, right? Even though I know. The difficulty is that on the platform of jnana, one thinks that he has become liberated. Now, this is a higher level of jnana. I was just speaking of bodily jnana, don't smoke, don't drink. Now this is going, higher. Who am I? Right? So I know I'm spirit soul. This is a higher level of knowledge. Right? Jnana. Very lower, basic level of knowledge. Don't smoke, don't drink, don't eat meat. Right? Going to a higher level now. So I know I'm not the body. What am I? I am soul. Pakka? I'm soul. Now what's the problem? I'm reading the books. All right? You read the books and you hear that you're God. You are that Narayan. You're yourself Narayan. Fool me. See, I like to go trekking on YouTube. So maybe, I don't know whether I told you this story. So I saw this one, anyway, some type of monk, sadhu. So he was in Gandaki River. Can you imagine how attractive this is, Gandaki River? This is where the Shalagram are coming. So naturally, I was all eyes, because I would never go to Gandaki River. So I wanted to see everything very nicely. He was explaining all ears, Then he starts speaking, okay, now let's do the worship. So he was giving the water in the name of the Pitris, this. And I said, it's still good because people should offer, right? Liberate their ancestors, right? Very good. And then this monk said, this is Narayan. I am Narayan. You are Narayan. Then I said, okay, Hari Bol. See what happens. Everything, level 1 is okay, level 2 is okay, level 3 is okay. Then level 4, I'm Narayan, you're Narayan. So here Prabhupada is saying, his point was that we will all be together. I mean, just how nice, very innocently he's saying, because that's what he's learned, all right? We will all remain together, you and I, the viewers, all we will stay together because Narayan is with you, Narayan is with me, Narayan in this Ganga, and we are all Narayan, all one. And in Prema also Narayan. So they add that bit also now because Hare Krishna movement is preaching, bhakti. So now in everybody's language and literature, you'll find bhakti, prema, right? So they add prema also, and this prema, it is all Narayan. We and I, we are all prema Narayan. Anyway, one day it will drop out. This is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy. One day people will actually become devotees. So, the difficulty is that on the platform of Jnana, one thinks that he has been liberated and has become Narayana Bhagavan. This is another phase of ignorance because the verse is saying, the previous verse, avidya. The previous verse said somewhere, avidya. Anyway, whatever. Can't find it. Okay, here it says anyway, somewhere, avidya. So Prabhupada is just pulling forward the same point. येन्येरविन्दक्षविमुक्तमानिनस्त्वायस्तभावत् यविशुद्धबूधयः अरूयक्रीचेन परं पदं ततः पत्याञ्चध्यो नादृतयुष्मन्नङ्ग्रयः. Yes, so now we believe we are Narayan, everybody is Narayan. So, and you can't find it? Text 12. Yeah, there it is. Yeah, so this Jnani believes he's Narayan or Bhagavan, all right? And he believes he's liberated. Can you imagine? You believe you've achieved your goal when actually you haven't achieved your goal? I've reached. Relax. Right? You know what it is? I think I've reached. Safe. I've made it. But here, this is spoken by Lord Brahma. Lord Brahma. He's saying, they believe, Maninas, they believe that they're liberated. But actually, they're in danger. They can fall down anytime. Why? Because they haven't caught hold of the shelter of the lotus feet of Narayan. Because of ignorance, one speculatively thinks himself liberated from material contamination, although actually he's not. Liberated from material contamination, meaning the contamination is gross that I want to smoke or drink and have, meat. This is very gross, but subtle. The subtle contamination is to believe or think I am Narayan, meaning I'm God, I'm Ishvara, meaning I don't have to submit to anybody, right? That's the contamination. I don't have to bow down to anybody. You can see how Prabhupada, the first thing he taught us is pranam, right? Pranam, isn't it? And entire bhakti marg is pranam, right? Meaning that I am small and you are great. I offer my respects, right? Therefore, even if one rises to Brahmagyan, understanding of Brahman, one nevertheless falls down of not taking shelter of the lotus feet of Krishna. Nonetheless, Gyanis at least know what is sinful and what is pious, and they very cautiously act according to the injunction of Shastra. All right? We've said this. Okay, so we're not going to criticize them on this.
They are at least one step ahead.
Yes.
They are not into atonement and then doing it.
All
They
right.
just try to avoid doing it.
Yes. Text 13-14. तपसा ब्रह्मचार्येण समेन च दमेन च त्यागेन सत्यशोचाभ्यहं यमेन नियमेन वा देहवाग्बुद्धिजं धीरा धर्माज्ञा श्रद्धयान्वितः क्षिपन्त्यघं महत् अपि वेणुगुल्मम् इवानलः. To concentrate the mind, one must observe a life of celibacy and not fall down. See now. So now, this point of inability to control the senses is being addressed. All right? So, here, this entire section is about your focus. How to become focused. See, we are reading here because the Hare Krishna devotees have the same problem, right? We check it out, we take Diksha and then we back out. Right? So Bhagavatam is teaching us how to stay focused. So first thing here that Shukdev Goswami is prescribing is that one must observe a life of celibacy and not fall down. Therefore, one must do his uttermost, right? Not to break this regulative principle, brahmacharya. One must undergo the austerity of voluntarily giving up sense enjoyment. Instead of going here and there in parties to eat, control, right? If I'm invited somewhere, have some fruits, take some thandai. I don't know how you manage it. You're invited somewhere. But it is an austerity. Your family members will criticize you. Oh, you don't eat in our house, right? So our austerity is, one must undergo the austerity of voluntarily giving up sense enjoyment. One must then control the mind and senses, give charity, be truthful, clean and non-violent, follow the regular principles and regularly chant the holy names of the Lord. Thus, a sober and faithful person who knows the religious principles, temporarily purified of all sins performed with his body, words, and mind. So, if we do all this, brahmachari, the whole list is given. Samena cha, damena cha, tyagena, satya socha, bhyam, yamena, niyamena, etc., etc. So, if we do all this, what will happen? What's the result? One is what? Temporarily purified of all sins performed by man was that? Vacha? Man vacha? Kai man vai. No, mind. Manasa. Karmana manasa gira. These sins are like the dried leaves of creepers beneath a bamboo, which may be burned by fire, although their roots remain to grow again at the first opportunity. So if we do all this, then externally, this brahmachari or this sannyasi, he looks free. All right? He looks free. Problem is still there. Apparently, he looks free, clean and neat. All right? But analogy is given, bamboo, right? Bamboo, Bamboo doesn't die so easily, right? They say as resilient as a bamboo tree. So you find that, the dry leaves, everything is sukha, right? And you think that the bamboo has become sukha, is Venu. I thought of Krishna, Venu. It says Venu Gulmal. I only thought how Krishna came in this all sinful, story. Venu came, so Venu. The bamboo seemed to have dried up, but as soon as there is pouring of rain, again it becomes green. Just see. So the hot sun hasn't killed the bamboo tree, even though to the eyes of everybody it seemed like a dry bamboo. Sukha bamboo. Purport. Tapaha is explained in the Smriti Shastras as follows. Manasas chandriyanam cha ekagriyam paramam tapaha. Complete control of the mind and sense and the complete concentration on one kind of activity is called tapaha. Our Krishna consciousness movement is teaching people how to concentrate the mind on devotional service. This is first class tapaha. Brahmacharya. The life of celibacy has 8 aspects. Okay, just read this.
This is first class tapaha, brahmacharya. The life of celibacy has 8 aspects. One should not think of women, speak about sex life, dally with women, looking lustfully at women, talk intimately with women, or decide to engage in sexual intercourse. Nor should one endeavor for sex life or engage in sex life. One should not even think of women or look at them, to say nothing of talking with them. This is called first class brahmacharya. If a brahmachari or sannyasi talks with a woman in a secluded place, naturally there will be a possibility of sex life without anyone's knowledge. Therefore, complete brahmachari practice just the opposite. If one is a perfect brahmachari, he can very easily control the mind and the senses, give charity, speak truthfully, and so forth. To begin, however, one must control the tongue and the process of eating. In the Bhakti Marga, the path of devotional service, one must strictly follow the regulative principles by first controlling the tongue. Sevan mukhehi jivadau swayam iva spruti adaha. The tongue, jiva, can be controlled if one chants the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, does not speak of any subjects other than concerning Krishna, does not taste anything not offered to Krishna. If one can control the tongue in this way, brahmacharya and other purifying processes will automatically follow. It will be explained in the next verse that the path of devotional service is completely perfect and is therefore superior to the path of the fruitive activities and the path of knowledge. Quoting from the Vedas, Srila Viraraghav Acharya explains that austerity involves observing fast as fully as possible. Tapassana sakena. Srila Rupa Goswami has also advised that atyahara, too much eating, is an impediment to advancement in spiritual life. Also in Bhagavad Gita 6.17, Krishna says, Yuktahara viharasya, yukta chetasya karmaso, yukta swapna vabodhasya, yoga bhavati dukhaha. He who is temperate in his habits of eating, sleeping, working, and recreation can mitigate all material pains by practicing the yoga system. In text 14, the word dhira, meaning those who are undisturbed under all circumstances, is very significant. Krishna tells Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita 2.14, Matra sparshastu kaunteya sito sana sukha dukkada agam paino nityastam stitikshuva bharata. O son of Kunti, the non-permanent appearance of happiness and distress and their disappearance in due course are like appearance and disappearance of winter and summer seasons. They arise from sense perception. O son of Bharata, and one must learn to tolerate them without being disturbed. In material life, there are many disturbances, adhyatmika, adhidevaka, and adhibhautika. One who has learned to tolerate these disturbances under all circumstances is called dhira.
Okay, so now these are the. I just take the second paragraph. First paragraph, I think it's okay. So in Bhakti, so now first thing is that, see, we can very easily just read through all this without noticing what Prabhupada is giving us. Because these are the principles of yoga, what's been described here now. These are the yoga system, right? And it's common in all the yoga systems, all right? But Prabhupada is showing us how we, right, who are so weak, right, harassed, too much busy, can't even travel from one, what it takes you 10 minutes, you can't even travel, right? Isn't it? How are we ever going to do all this, right? How are you going to maintain all this, be truthful, give charity when you're becoming poor, every day you're becoming poorer and poorer and poorer, right? How will you give charity, right? When to be clean, right? To be clean. You just, climate changes, immediately you're dirty, right? You're sweating like anything. How many times you take bath? No water, no water, right? It's terrible. No water. How will you take bath? Hmm? So many disadvantages. All right. So Prabhupada wrote one simple sentence. He said, complete. So he gave the definition and then he makes it become relevant and applicable to us. How we can practice. What is this tapasya? Complete control of the mind and senses and the complete concentration on one kind of activity is called tapaha. Meaning that there is a basic rule. We should be able to control our mind and senses. No meat eating, no intoxication, no gambling, no illicit sex. These basics should be there. So therefore, when we take diksha, right, we promise. And why is it some people hesitate to take diksha? They say, maybe I want to eat onion and garlic. I have to go to a party, right? I want to go to some wedding, I must eat onion and garlic, so I don't want to take diksha. Meaning inability to control the mind and senses. So we hesitate, right? Now, so minimum Prabhupada is saying we have to, that should be there. Now, our Krishna consciousness movement teaching people how to concentrate the mind on devotional service. See, I'm not going to describe this to you because we are very advanced now. So many years we've been studying and studying. You should know now what is devotional service. I'm not going to do ABC. What is, because yesterday I was doing my Bhagavad Gita class. So one mother asked me, what is this devotional service? Is it that I should come here and distribute books? She asked me whether this is what is devotional service. So I spent half an hour to explain the 9 angas of devotional service. All right? So I expect that all of you know exactly what is devotional service and how it is practiced. So here Prabhupada is saying, complete control of the, so our Krishna consciousness movements teaching people how to concentrate the mind on devotional service. This is first class tapaha. All right. Now the second paragraph. So Prabhupada is elaborating. So meaning here in the Bhakti Marg, the path of devotional service, one must strictly follow the regular principles by first controlling the tongue. Sevan mukhi hi jivadu swayam eva spurati adaha. I'll tell you one thing. I have read this, I don't know, almost everywhere in Prabhupada's books, in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, in Upadeshamrita, here, everywhere, And so we repeat, how does devotional service start? It is by controlling the tongue. What do? Taste Krishna Prasad and chant Hare Krishna. This is all. I heard one lecture of Prabhupada. Hmm? Just see, Prabhupada has not been able to put everything in the books. You should listen to his lectures. You know what he said? He said that nobody can understand how it is. Right? Prabhupada is doing his duty. All right? Prabhupada is doing his duty. He's writing in the book. He's saying, one must strictly follow the regulative principle by first controlling the tongue. And he's putting the quotation. And in the lecture, Prabhupada is saying that nobody can understand how this, but we can see by the outcome. Meaning it's beyond logic. All right? Meaning that this process of devotional service, the bhakti marg, there is an empowerment in it. It's not just an empty rules and regulations, niyamagraha. All right? It is an empowered system. And when we do this, we have only Krishna Prasad. Go back and study your Upadeshamrita, because I cannot. In Upadeshamrita, Prabhupada has elaborated huge on this point. What we should do, what we should not do. And chant Hare Krishna. If one controls the tongue in this way, then Prabhupada is saying, if you're going to control the tongue, you'll be able to maintain your brahmacharya. All right? If you eat here and there, then there'll be sexual agitation. So if one can control the tongue in this way, brahmacharya and other purifying processes will automatically follow. It's easy to get up early in the morning, take your bath, and do everything else. Yeah. So again, yuktahara meaning eat only as much as required, observe fasting. So I hope that everybody at least once, every 2 weeks, we are having, fast. Anyway, there's so many festivals like half-day fasting, whole-day fasting, right? Till moonrise. So Krishna's forcing us to fast. And if I say, no, so many excuses. I'm just saying because the devotee, amazing. I thought that all devotees are fasting, observing this. No, they don't. They think it's for Hare Krishna people in the temple. You don't work, we are working. One devotee told me this. I have to go to work. I said, what do you think we are doing in the temple? Are we working or are we sitting and doing what? Sleeping. I heard this story from Goranga Prabhu, Chaupati temple. Say Maharaj Radhanath Maharaj just had 5-hour class. 5-hour katha, right? 5-hour katha. Anyway, he speaks very nicely. I can't repeat the way he speaks. All right. So he said that, all right, so so he went to the brahmachari ashram, and what did he find? All the brahmacharis are laid out, all right? So because they have to, they have to fast. They're already fasting, 5-hour katha, and they have to work throughout the whole night, right? The whole world is coming, right? So this Prabhu, he said, okay, everybody is lying down, let me also. He went to check out what's going on in the brahmachari ashram, okay? So he also lay down, and then Maharaj said, let me check out what's going on in the brahmachari ashram. And so Radhanath Maharaj said 5 hours of katha, and this is the result. All right. So here, this point. He who is temperate in his habits of eating, sleeping, working, and recreation can mitigate all material pains by practicing the yoga system, meaning that's the day where you work. All right. You actually work. There's no rest for anybody on Janmashtami. And you're fasting. All right. So read by yourself. We have already studied all this. Dhira, dhira, meaning that if I'm feeling hungry, okay, take some water, take some juice is required. And if we are practiced, if we actually practice, then fast. Actually, in India, so many people are practiced. They have no issue at all to keep fast. But exceptions are there. Exception is children, old people, sickly people. These are the only exception. But don't eat grains. Don't eat grains. So tolerate. So this is a dhira. All right. So it came again and again. No? Deha vak buddhijam dhira. How not to fall in sinful life is being described. Right? How not to fall in sinful life. How the devotees will be able to maintain those four relative principles is being described here. And the secret Prabhupada is saying start with the tongue. And I told you, Prabhupada is just writing it. He said it is from Shastra, so he's putting it. And Prabhupada himself is saying that nobody knows how this is, but it works. So Prabhupada is only writing his obedience. Shastra has said, right, Shabda Praman. So he's writing, he's giving the instruction, but he actually doesn't know why, how, right? We all say, how, why? You keep on asking. Nobody knows, but the effect is visible. Right? So please remember this. Don't take this path of Bhakti Yoga lightly or cheaply. Hare Krishna.